Hi, good evening from this side. Yeah, this is almost 12 a.m. where I am. Tonight, I just want to talk about auto attendance and call queue in Microsoft Teams. But before I do that, I just want to paint a scenario of what it looks like when you're probably a consultant or you're working as an IT person in an organization and you need to implement this. So imagine having a meeting, the design or the call flow, the requirements or what the flow should look like would not be coming from you most of the time. And how do you capture this information so you can implement it on the portal? So I would just go through a documentation of how I capture mine, and you don't need to stress about the documentation if probably you don't understand what's happening. But when we get into the portal, I'll try to connect both together. So now let me open my documentation. So I have this Excel sheet, and in this Excel sheet I have different cells which I've filled. I have columns, I have rows. So but looking at this Excel sheet, most of the information is here. The company, the organization, or the person you might be having a conversation with might not really understand what's happening, right? But you that is going for that call, you know what is happening, and then you pick information from what they have and also ask them questions so they can provide answers to the other aspect of what they don't know is happening on Microsoft Teams. So for me, I'm actually having a meeting and I was asked to use this number as the main number. So but this is not the main number. I have another number on my Microsoft portal. So the company is saying this is our main number, and we want, when they call this number, we want the users to have that option where they can select one to go to the support. Then when they press 2, it should go to sales team, and when it goes to support team, we need these 3 guys in IT department to get the call. I want the call to ring those 3 guys from IT department, and also if it goes to sales, I want these 5 guys in sales department to get the call. Right now, this is just like the basic call flow design they are actually looking at. But with this Excel sheet, I know there are a lot of stuffs happening in Microsoft portal. So how do I capture the information from them and try to balance it with informations that I'll be getting from the portal is what I'm doing with this Excel sheet. So I know they already know their number, and they say, oh, this is our number, and this is the main number that our clients will be calling. So for me, I know I would probably be creating a resource account, and that resource account will need a name, and I'll also give it an address, right? So I'll capture this, I'll put it main office, auto attendance, that's AA, this is the email, and now I'm putting the number. The next question I will ask is, what time zone do you operate with? And they'll probably say their time zone. So imagine they're telling me UTC +1. Fine, which language? Everybody, they have different languages that their call flow can actually take. So probably they're going to tell me English. That's for the UK. I've selected that. Now, what are your business hours, your opening hours? And they say, oh, it's from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's fine. Now, do you want the voice input? I'll probably explain to them. Do you want users, when they call, they have the option to just say 1 instead of pressing 1, or probably saying support, and the calls will be redirected to support? If they say yes, that we want something like that, I'll put on. But if they say no, off. Now, greetings. Once they call the number, do you have any greetings you want the person calling to here, and if they will have maybe an audio file or they want text, I can put that here. Now I've captured this information. I still have another information here, and this is what will be happening with the calls during business hours. So if anybody is calling during business hours, this is what should be happening. So now the question is, if they are calling during business hours, do I want the call to be disconnected? No, of course. Do I want the call to be redirected to probably someone in the organization or to another auto attendant or a call queue? Do I want that? No. Do I want, the menu option? For the purpose of this video, I will be using the menu option, and so I'm putting yes. Do I want a greeting? Right, I'll be using yes because I'll be using text to speech. Now I have the options here, and the option is, I'll ask them, when the user is dialing 1, what do you want to happen? We want 1 to go to support. I'm going to put support there. We want 2 to go to sales. I'll be putting 2 there, right? So it can go, you can go up to 9, right? But we'll see that in the portal. So this is me capturing what's going to happen when the call is coming during business hours. Then what happens when the call is coming after hours? What are we going to do? Do we want a greeting? Yes, probably we would. We'll say you're calling after hours, whatsoever we want to say, we can add it there. Do we want to disconnect the call? Most people might want to disconnect the call, but most people might be like, no, redirect the call to a voicemail. So that's what I'll be using here. But you still have the option to set up menu options for after hours. Probably you have people that you can send the calls to. And now, while we are talking about the after hours, we also have this dial by extension and dial by name. We can also use that for the business hours also. We have this here. So I'm turning this off, but if you want people to actually dial by extension or by name of people in your organization directory, yes, it's possible, you can do that. So we are going to turn that off, and at the end of the auto attendance, we have options to include users, all online users, or we can exclude users. Now, while we are creating this auto attendance, we would get to a part where we need to specify holiday. Now for holiday, I have another sheet here where I will capture holidays. You can just tell me all the holidays that you want to set, then I can set them up here. We are going to see them in the portal, and what should happen when someone is calling during holidays. So we'll set that up here. So the next thing we'll be looking at is the call queue, right? So when we come to the call queue, what I'll be doing here is I'll probably get the name, which is going to be the resource account name, and the address I'll use for the resource account. Then the next thing I'll ask is assign calling ID. We can actually do that for a call queue. We can assign a calling ID for a call queue. We can even, when we assign this, users can actually make outbound calls with the calling ID if we want to, but I'm setting that to no. We have greetings also. When the call is being redirected from the auto attendant to the call queue, we have the option to actually play greetings to the user that is calling, and also we also have the music for hold while the caller is waiting on the call queue for an agent. There can be a music that will be playing while the caller is waiting. So we also have call answering. So for call answering, is basically me just deciding how do you want call answering to how do you want us to get our agents. Let me use that word. So if we are probably adding agents to the call queue, do we want to add these agents that are in a particular Microsoft 365 group, or we probably just want to add a single person to the call queue? We can actually just add someone to the call queue, or we can even add a Teams channel to the call queue, and this actually works when we're using the standard channel. So we have what we call the call routing method. I'll also capture this. We'll see this when we get to the portal. So I'll ask them which was the routing method you want the call, and probably they'll ask you when you're talking of the call routing method, what do you mean? So basically, it's actually a very good question in terms of what do you mean when we're talking about the call routing. So this is just how the call is going to ring the agents that are in the call queue. That's what the call routing is all about. So when we are talking of attendant routing, what attendant routing does is that it rings all the agents at the same time. That's what it does. So we have the serial routing. What that does is going to call agents one by one in the queue. So it just keeps calling from this person, it goes to the next person. So we have the round robin. So what that does is every agent in the call queue, they get the same numbers of call. Call is distributed evenly across all the agents. And then we also have the longest idle. So what happens is when an agent have been idle for a long time and the agent is in available state, the agent would get the call. So that's basically what happens when we're talking about the call routing method. So when we go there, when we go into the portal, we'll see all of this. Then we have options for presence-based routing. So what presence-based routing does is, Teams where you can see people's status, if they're available, busy, meeting, in call, and all of that. If you turn this on, agents that will be added to the call queue when there's an incoming call, right? Or agents that will be ringed when there's an incoming call, their status will need to be in available. So if it is not in available, they would not be added to the call queue if it is ringing. So that's basically what the presence-based routing is all about. And then we also have the agents can opt out of taking calls. They can choose to opt out of taking calls, and if they opt out of taking calls, even if their status is unavailable, they won't be added to the call. Even if your presence-based routing is turned on, they won't be added to the call. Now, what is this capturing? So we have agent alert time, just basically how long is the call going to ring to alert the agent, right? I'll capture that. Then the maximum number of people in caller in a queue or call in a queue just means if there's a call in a queue waiting for an agent, another call is in the queue waiting for an agent, maximum number 2. If it exceeds 2, what's going to happen? Then we'll redirect the third caller to either a voicemail or another queue. We can have overflow, we can send it to another queue. Then what is the next thing that we can look at? There's what we call call timeout. So at what point do we say, okay, the call has timed out? So if the call has been going for 2 minutes, then we can say, okay, timeout. And what that means is we can redirect the caller to either a voicemail or another call queue or auto attendant, right? But basically this Excel sheet is just a way how I can capture my information before building my auto attendant. So we have here, I can probably just create the groups and the users that needs to be in each of these group. You'll probably be having the meeting and you say, okay, who is going to be in this group? They'll say, okay, add these people. Then I would just have the group and these people. Then I can also have the users here. So this is just a way you can capture your call flow design. Now I'll be going to the portal. So why I'm showing you that is because if you look at this Excel sheet, you would see I started with auto attendant. when you're building an auto attendant, it doesn't work this way. You don't start from the auto attendant. Oh, sorry, when you're building a call flow design, right, you don't start from the auto attendant, because if you look at the conversation actually started from there. So if you're building this, is more like ground to the top. I don't know if that's correct, but this is what it looks like. I'm going to come to my Teams admin center. This is where the Teams admin center is. And when I'm here, so what am I going to do now? I need to start with my resource account. So if I'm going to be starting with my resource account, I would remember I actually named my resource account. So what was the name I gave my resource account? This was main office. So I'm just going to copy main office. So I think I'll just move this over here. So I'll just be copying the information and pasting here so I can be fast. So this is main office, and the email for main office was main office underscore AA. So that's the, and this is going to be an auto attendant resource account. So I'm going to select this and I'll save this. So the next thing I will be looking for is another resource account. So the resource account I'll be creating, remember, if you're creating a call queue, you're creating auto attendants, each would always have a resource account, and each of those resource accounts needs to be assigned a license. We'll get to that part. So now the next thing I will be looking at is the resource account for my call queues. Remember, I have two call queue, and the first one is support call queue, and what's going to be the username. So the username is going to be support underscore CQ, and this is going to be for my call queue. I'll save this. So the next thing I'm going to do is the sales call queue, and what will I name this? This is going to be sales underscore CQ. So what am I going to do? This is a call queue, so I'm going to save it. So now I'm done with my call queue. Wonderful. So the next thing, I'll come here to the admin portal. My call queue should be here. So it is very, very important to assign all your call queues a license, even if you're not going to be assigning a number to the call queue, or all your resource accounts a license, even if you won't be assigning numbers to the resource account. So I'm just going to look for my main. Where's main office? Okay, yeah, this main office. So now once I come here, one thing you would always see is that your resource account, you will see signed in, blocked, and if you come to this place, you will see the department is Microsoft Communication Application Instance. So that's something you will always see with any resource account you create. So if I come here now, I would be assigning this resource account the Microsoft Teams phone resource account. It is a free license. You don't need to pay for it, and you need to assign them to all your resource accounts. This was previously called the virtual user. For people that have been building auto attendants for the long time, they would building call flow designs, they'll be familiar with this. So I'm just going to save this for main office, and then I'm going to look for support. So this is support, and you can see the same thing, signed in, blocked, and if I go here, you'll still see it's the same thing. So I'll go to the license app, and what I'm going to do, I would assign this to the resource account, and the last resource account I have should be sales. Sales is meant to just be right on top, so I'll just refresh this. So this is sales, so I'm going to assign the license to sales. So good. Now you can see we have our license. So what are we supposed to do next? The next thing we are supposed to do is we need to get our teams, sorry, our M365 group ready with the users. Probably you must have gotten the specification. So if I come here now, I would just go to Microsoft Teams, active teams and groups, and create. So now you is not compulsory the M365 group should have teams, right? You can actually just create the M365 group and add the users. So this is the two M365 group I'll be using, and the users are probably in there. So now remember, when you have this, when you have users as owners, they would not receive calls. So that's something you should note. So now I'm going to come back here. I would just refresh this page because I've assigned my license. So now I have my license assigned, right? The call is going to be coming in through the main line and then redirect the call to the call queue, which is the different department. So if I come to voice, I'll go to numbers. Now you can, this call, I'm not going to be covering how to get numbers and all of that, but when you have numbers, you'll see we have different types of numbers. We have voice app and then we have users. So I'll be assigning the voice app to the resource account. Yep, so when we are done assigning the license, we need to assign the resource account a phone number. So this is my main line, and it will be coming to the auto attendant, which will redirect the calls. Now I wanted to assign the number previously from here, and I got back here, and while I was trying, I did not see the number. The reason was, if you look at this, my auto attendant, I just had to go look at it again. It was having the usage location in United Kingdom. So when it comes to assigning number, usage location is very, very important. So I would not be seeing any other number except the UK numbers for this resource account. So I'm just going to click on assign, and for this I will just go to calling plan, and let me just wait. These are the numbers I just added, so I'm going to select this number and then I'll save. So this number is the number that is supposed to be where my main number is in that document, if you're getting your requirements. So now our resource accounts, they are ready. The next thing we need to go into now is, I said we are not going to start from the auto attendants, we are going to go from down. So we'll start with the resource account. The reason we are going through this way is because any other thing we'll be doing will be asking for this resource account. So we need to create our resource account, assign it a license, create the group, add the users to the group, and we also need to assign the users the appropriate license, because we are also going to assign them their numbers in terms of when they want to receive calls. They need to have phone numbers, and we need the Teams phone standard license, or we are going to get the E5 license because it would come as an add-on. So now we have this. The next thing I'll be going to is, I would be going to the call queues. So I could as well just go and create the holiday, right? I can just come here and add the holiday, and the holiday I have was Xmas break. So I'm just going to add it, and let's just assume the Xmas holiday is going to be from 25th to 26th. Now this is going to be 12 a.m. on the 25th, and it should be ending on the 26th by 11:45 p.m. Yeah, so if anybody is probably calling by 11:46, our after hours is going to handle the call. So now I'm going to save this. What's the problem? Oh, sorry, date. So this is 26th, so we are good now. So now this is my holiday. So the next thing I'll go is the call queue. So if you look at the call queue, I'm just going to create the call queue. Remember from our design, I'll just call this support. So I like naming my call queues the same name with the resource account. So I'm going to add the resource account for the call queue for support. So this is support call queue. I'm going to add that. And the next thing, I'm not going to be assigning numbers, but if you want agents to make outbound calls using phone numbers on the following resource accounts, yeah, you can, but I'm not. So the language, remember we got that as our requirement and it was English. Yep. So I'm going to go next, and when I go next, this is the greetings. So do you want your callers to, either get an audio greeting, or probably you want to use text, right? You can do that. I can just say welcome to yep. So you can do that. You can also use an audio. Play default music. I'll leave that on default. You can add yours. This is just hold music. And now we are going to talk of the call answering. So how do we want it? If you want to use channel on team, remember this only supports the standard channel, right? You can use this, but if you want to use the M365 group, you can use this, and you can as well add users to the call queue. So I'm going to be using the M365 group, which is SOC team for support. So this is, I'm going to add this. So I've added this. So if I probably chose to use channel, I would have been able to choose the channel from this team. So now conference mode, basically what's the conference mode does, right? It's reduce the time it takes for VoIP calls and PSTN calls to get to the agent. So that's what it does. And if you're probably going to be turning this on, you need to still read about the conditions that are surrounding this mode, because they have conditions around it. So I'll go next, and now this is where we have our agent selection. How do we want our agent to be selected from the call queue? This is like just like a physical wait room where you have people there, and when there is a caller, you pick an agent to answer the caller. So for this, we'll be ringing all the agents, while for the serial routing is just one by one. Round robin is just a way to balance the call around the agent, and this is based on how long you've been idle. So we have the presence base. I explained this. Basically what this does is we are going to be looking at the status of the agent. If probably they are available, then we can add them to the call, but if not, they won't be added to the call. So this also, we have agents can opt out of taking calls. Yes, agents, they can choose to say, oh, I'm turning off call from this call queue. That means even if their status is set to available, the call queue would not add them to the call. So we have the alert time, and what was my alert time? I think it was 45 seconds. Confirm that. Yeah. So I'll go next. So now we have the exception handling. So basically this is where our call overflow comes in. So this is where we can decide the number of people calls we need in the queue. For mine it was 2, and where does it go to? I'm going to be redirecting this to a voicemail. So you can see the different options we have. We can send it to someone in the organization, we can send it to a voice app. So when you see voice app, it basically means we can actually send this call to another auto attendant. We can even send it to the same auto attendant that, we can create a loop. The auto attendant the call came from to this call queue, we can send it back there. So we can send this to external phone number. So when you're actually redirecting calls to external phone numbers, you need to also read the conditions around it, because you would need the calling plan license. So there are conditions around this when using external forwarding, the redirecting calls to external numbers. So we have voicemail. We can send this to voicemail for someone's personal voicemail, and then we can send it to a shared voicemail, and this shared voicemail is going to be an M365 group. But I've had people saying they want to send this to a mailbox, like a shared mailbox in M365. So the option is not here, but I've helped different people to set that up. All I just needed to do was create a transport rule that could send the voicemail to the shared mailbox, and it was working perfectly well. Like, it met their requirements. So you can try that out. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the voicemail, and where am I going to send it to? I'll just send it back to the, sorry, that was not what I said. So I'll send it back to the team. Yeah, so now we have transcription. You can turn on transcription and skip voicemail message. So skipping voicemail message most times is good when you probably just want to put yours. There's no need to still get the message when you're going to be doing the same thing. You can add an audio there. So you can see there's sorry, and I'll just copy this. I use this a lot sometimes when I'm probably building this for someone and the person haven't gotten everything they need. When they are ready, then we can change this and then upload an audio if they need one. So with this, I'm done with my overflow. Then let's see call timeout. For my call timeout, this was 2 minutes for me, right? And what should I do? I would send it to a voicemail, because I don't want any call to just disconnect, right? I need to get the information. So I will turn on transcript, and I can skip this, and I will just paste this also. So this is actually a new feature in the call queue. So you can actually have agents that would manage your call queue when there's no agent signed into the call queue. So you can actually do this. So the next thing I'll do, I'll just click next. This is like the last part, nothing. So I'm getting voicemail, sorry about that. So I'm redirecting this to a voicemail. So I'm just going to submit next. Let's just see. So I'm not going to add any authorized user. I'm just going to submit this. This is fine by me. So once this is done, so I have my first call queue. Now I'm not assigning this a number. You can assign it the resource account a number, but I'm not really going to be assigning the call queue number. You can actually assign the call queue number if you want people to call the call queue directly, but it depends on what you want. But I just want to design my call flow from the auto attendant. So now this is going to be my sales and marketing. So CQ. So what did I use? Okay, I used sales. So I'm just going to add that sales. Where are you? Yeah, sale. Oh, I didn't use sales, I use sale. Okay, it's all good. So now I already explained this, so I'll just go real quick to the language and then I'll go next. I explained all of this, I'm just going to go next, and this time around I just want to use this, right? So we see what it looks like. So this was US, if I'm not mistaken, US sales. Yeah, so you can see it's showing me members, and now I have the option to select channel. You can see, so if I say okay, this is the channel I want to use, it's all good. So I'm going to use the channel. So I think you should try the channel and see what it looks like, how your channel is going to look like in terms of probably how you'll be getting your voicemails and all of that. So I'm selecting channels here. Remember, I can actually use group without a team, an M365 group without a team to do this. I can use distribution lists. I can also use a security group. So, but I'm going to leave this like this, and let me use this. It doesn't change anything. I can turn this off, right? But my requirement said I should use this. So the time was 45, and then I'll go next. Overflow, we needed 2 maximum, and we are going to be redirecting the calls to voice, and this is going to be the US sales. I'm going to turn on transcription. Transcription is just going to transcribe what the person is saying when they are dropping their voicemail, and I'm going to just drop this here. So for call timeout, I'm going to give this 2 minutes and then redirect it to voicemail, and then I can as well redirect this to this. Let's do this. So if the call times out and nobody is probably picking it, I'm sending it to support. So I can as well do that here and say, oh, if sales, they are not picking their calls, or maybe they have this is maximum calls in the queue, we can send the call to support. So you can do all of that. So I'm just using this now because so you can see, and remember, this is a new feature where you can have someone manage your call queue. So I'm going to go next, and then I'll submit this. So I'm trying not to make this video long. Yep. And I know I won't be editing this video, so that's why. Yeah, so then the next thing I'll be doing is I need to now go to my auto attendant. So you see how everything is connecting now. So I'll come to my auto attendant, and now I'm going to give this main office AA. So what this is going to do, so for this operator, I don't really need an operator, right? You can actually add an operator, and this operator can be even your voice app external numbers. But if you don't want somebody, callers to be redirected, right, in the other options, right, you can have someone that will handle it, but this is also optional. So I'm just going to leave that. It wasn't part of the requirement, and I will be going to my time zone. That would be, this is UK time zone, so I'll select that, and I'll select English, which, so now this is the option for me to turn on the voice input. So if I turn this on, what would happen is when I come here, I would have the option for users to use voice command instead of dialing their keypad, or they can also just call the name support and their call will be redirected to support. So this is the call flow. Do I want to greet my callers? Yeah, do I need? So I can tell them welcome to Conto, so your call is important to us. So I can just put that here, and probably can put, so for the menu options, we can choose to disconnect the call, we can choose to redirect the call again if we want to. You can see these are still the options we have in terms of redirecting the calls, right? And these calls are going to be happening during the business hours. So I will just go to play up menu options, and when I go to the play menu options, I can force people to listen to it. That means they have to listen to everything before they can select a key. So I can upload how, in terms of, I can use my audio file to say, to speak to support, press 1 and all of that. I can as well just use text. So if I'm using text, do I have, yeah, so Microsoft is good. Yeah, you can see what they did for me. If you want to, or press 2. For sales, press, okay, so I'm not using the voice input, right? So let me just take this and edit this. So since I'm not using the voice, I'll just say press. So I can say for sales, press 1, or say 1, or say support, right? And that will be fine. So this is actually going to be for support, and this is going to be for sales. Yeah. So once I do that, now I can assign keys. So this is 1, and yeah, you can see how many keys we can assign, just the same keys you have on your phone. So I'm going to go to voice app, right? And I'm going to be sending this to the support call queue. So I'm going to be sending this, then I'm going to add another key, and I'll select to where I'll be sending this to. This is going to be the sales. Yeah, this is going to be the sales. And yeah, so these options, I don't really need them. So even if I'm selecting this, so you can use dial by name, dial by extension, right? You can use this, but I'm not using that. When you're using dial by extension, you would probably have to let the caller know about that. So I'm going to go next now. Now this is something I like, this, right? This is also a recent update. I remember when I usually build a lot of call flow, you just have to be changing this one after the other. But now we have the option to, if your office hours at the same time, the same hours, all you just need to do is, and you're good to go. So what I just need to do is just change this to 9 a.m. and once I change this to 9 a.m. and then I'll set this closing time to 5. That was what I was given for the requirements. So for this, we are not working on Saturday, so I just untick it. You can see this is very fast. For people that have been building this before now, I think someone was thinking the same way I was thinking for them to make this change. So the next thing is after hours, what's going to happen? You can see we are back to the greetings, and we can do the same thing. But yeah, so for after hours, I can just give you that greeting like, oh, sorry, welcome, your call is important to us, please, you're not listening to the menu. So I can just say, please drop. So I can just say, please drop your message or something. So I don't even think I need to do this right now because, yep. So why I said if I come here and I'm just going to say I'm sending this. So what you can do, you can probably create another, group and name it after hours, where you can be receiving your voicemail. So I'm just going to send this to the SOC team. So, and then I can turn on and skip this. So once I do this, remember you can still do the options that we just went through. So I'll go next. So this is the point where we need to add our holiday. So I created my holiday. You can as well just create one here, but since I already have one, I can add it. So if I needed to create another one, I could just as well create it and also add. So now I have options to also greet and say, oh, this is holidays, welcome to Conto. So you can now also redirect your call to voicemail, and then I'll be sending this call this time around to the US sales. Yeah, so I'll turn on transcript and skip voicemail, and with this I can save. So I'll go back to complete my auto attendant. So I need to give it a name, so I'll just say holiday main office. How many hours? Okay, I'm trying not to make this video long. So once I do this, I've added my holiday. I'll just go next. Now I'm including all online users and I'm not excluding anyone, so I'm just going to go next. And now this is the point where I need my resource account. So now you can see why it is important we have our resource account first, then we have our group, then that's, you have to license your resource account, have your number, have your group, have your, you don't really need to have your users in your group because you can always add them, but then you need your call queues, and then you can now come to your auto attendant. So now I'm just going to add the main office auto attendant, and this is the main office auto attendant. And once I add this, I can go next, and I don't need any authorized user. I can submit this. So with this, once a call comes in to our main office number, which is this, the call will give the user an option to pick where they want to be redirected to, and then it goes to any of these call queues, and the conditions that are already in place will decide whether the call will be going to an agent or going to a voicemail. So this is how you set up an auto attendant and call queues. And then when we come here, you can also just go to confirm. Yeah, so if I come here, you just make sure that for the users to receive calls, they need to be members of the call queue. So please also note that you need to assign them a Teams phone license, and you need to assign them a phone number so that they can receive calls. If you have any questions, you can always shoot it at me. So I will just be stopping this video here because I'm not going to edit it. I just want it to go the way it is. Thank you for your time.